Welcome to Property Mama, episode 15. Property Mama is where I share about all of the adventures in real estate that I have seen and experienced over close to 3 decades buying and selling real estate. If we've not met before, my name is Wendy Chamberlain and I am a buyer's advocate, vendor advocate, seller's advocate, buyer's agent. We're also called here in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. So, in a previous episode, we were talking about an offer that we had put in on a property that we were looking to purchase. And if you've watched the previous episode, you'll remember I shared that our offer was almost 100,000 over the guide price, and they knocked it back and said no, they wanted 300,000 over the top of the guide price. So here in Victoria, there are they did implement what's called a statement of information purely for the reason of trying to stamp out underquoting. And what's the saying? The water always gets around the rock. It's interesting that the way that agents have adapted to be able to work within the parameters of the law, but it's absolutely frustrating for buyers. One of the biggest frustrations that I hear from buyers is that they can't trust what the real estate agents are saying because they don't know if they're telling the truth regarding pricing. And even yesterday, I saw a property came across my desk off market, which means that it's not advertised. It's not available to the public market. It's available if you happen to know about it. And I receive messages every day, lots of messages every day with lots of different off-market properties. And the range on this property, I think it was 1.1 to 1.25. So like we're talking about $125,000 spread. Now, here's the tip. The vendor's not down at the 1.1 level. They're up at the 1.25 level, if not above that. And so it's actually quite curious why agents advertise with a such a range. As a buyer, when you're looking at it, I know why they do it because I'm in the industry and I see what they do, how they're doing it. But I can fully appreciate and understand the frustration for buyers where they're out there, they're excited. Look, most of them are stressed to their eyeballs because what we're talking about here is them investing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into buying a property, buying their home. And they don't know who to trust out there when it comes to dealing with real estate agents. And it's a real shame because there are some great real estate agents out there. There's some wonderful people that have the best interests of everybody involved in the process at heart. But the problem with the real estate industry is that you don't know whether you're dealing with that kind of person or if you're dealing with the other kind of person that I call them transactional. They just like to trade properties. They want to just get a property in, get it sold, move on to the next one, take their commission. That's all they're caring about. And unfortunately, there are enough of those type of real estate agents in the industry, they ruin it for everybody else. And it makes it that people don't know who to trust. And it's how I suppose buyer's advocates came about, which is what I do. What my team does when we work with clients is we are supporting you because let me tell you, my BS radar is pretty spot on these days. Within a few nanoseconds of talking to a real estate agent, if it's someone that I might not have spoken to before, I can get a feel of whether they're actually being genuine with what they're saying or whether they're playing the game. And this is one of the things that I describe real estate as. I say real estate is a game. And you might go, well, what are you talking about? As with anything, know the rules of the game, know how to play the game. And if you don't know how to play the rules of the game, and this applies to anything in life, real estate's just one aspect of it, get someone on your side who knows how to play the game, who knows how it works, the rules and so forth. So to give you another example, so we find off-market opportunities all the time for our clients. I think I mentioned in a previous episode, had a new client come on board, totally fed up to the back teeth with having to deal with real estate agents. They'd gone to a few auctions, and the ranges of the prices that they were told flew past that in an instant, flew past that. And I see that all the time, because there's what a property is advertised for, and there's what a property will sell for. And then add to that, there's often an emotional price, because if someone falls in love with a property, they may be prepared to pay just a little bit more than what it otherwise might be worth, because it's that emotional price that I talk about. And it comes down to how long you intend to hold the property. Because if this is a property you're going to buy and it's going to be your home for the next 10, 15 years, you may be prepared to spend a little bit more than you otherwise might want to buy that property, because you're going to be there for the longer term. And as a generalization, real estate is a very forgiving asset class. It often tends to, over time, go up. It does have its dips, and every single market that we're in is always different. So no two markets are ever the same. But overall, over time, it has proven to be a very forgiving asset class. So whilst you may make the decision to pay a little bit more than either you want to or have to get the property that you want, if you hold it in the longer term, the chances are that you are likely to get a good return on your investment. That's just how real estate is. And so when people are out there hunting, and this is why at auction, and look, what I will say, and I've said this before, it's not always the agent's fault at an auction when a property goes sky high, because if you get two people who've fallen in love with the property and are bidding on a property, it can hit the reserve and then just keep going. Now, the reserve price is what the vendor would be prepared to sell their property for. So oftentimes what we see where a property is popular, and certainly at the moment here in Melbourne, there is a shortage of stock. And so where a good home in the eyes of buyers comes on the market, they are prepared to compete for it. And so that's why you can sometimes see these ridiculous standout results. Now, not always. Sometimes it's totally underquoted and it was always going to sell for that. That's another tactic agents do, because don't they look good in their eyes of their vendor having got them 200,000 more than what they said it was worth? Well, if it was always worth that, it was underquoted and you just wanted to make yourself look good. But I see time and time again properties where we've done our due diligence and where we feel the property sits on price in a market, which often is over the guide price. But you do your due diligence. And if you're not confident in doing that, if you don't have the experience in doing that, that's why you come and work with us. We are your buyer's advocate, and we can help you and support you to show you, do those numbers for you. I did that yesterday for a property for a client, which is off market. We, to determine what we think the value of the property is, we had a look at other recent sales in the area, which is what a statement of information is supposed to be. It's supposed to be 3 comparable properties within 2 kilometres in the last 6 months. But you've got to shift the oats from the chaff, because it's very rare that 2 properties are identical, unless they're in apartment towers, but it's very, very rare. So you've got to kind of match like with like, but you might have like a row of apples, but you've got different types of apples. They're all apples. Like have a look at dogs. Dogs come in all different shapes and sizes, right? But they're all dogs. But a poodle could be even tiny little poodle. You've got a huge Great Dane. There's lots of different types. Same with real estate. So it can be quite challenging and difficult if it's not what you're doing, or not knowing what you're doing, or not doing it very often, to understand how to analyze properties. And then we also pull in that emotional factor that I've spoken about. And I do see it all the time at auction, where people are paying overs, way over for properties, because they've absolutely just fallen in love with the home. And recently we were working with a client who had fallen in love with the property. Now, they were prepared to pay what I would have considered over and above, over the odds for this particular property. We had a building and pest inspection done, and it failed building and pest. And I could see, I was actually sitting with them when we got the call from the inspector to tell us about the property. And yeah, they were shattered. They were absolutely shattered. But here's the interesting thing. Based on that and what the work was identified needing to be done in that particular property, our client said, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to take on that work. We're not interested in doing that. And this is a very sound conversation that you need to be having with anybody involved in the buying process. If things are identified through something like a building and pest inspection, is that still a property that you're prepared to consider? It may well be, because if you're looking to renovate a property and you're happy to do that, then something that comes through on a building inspection report that needs fixing might not be an issue for you. You might have the time, inclination, budget, patience. If anyone's ever renovated, you know, dust gets everywhere. There's just, it doesn't matter what you try and do, there's dust everywhere. So it's a very individual decision around looking at a building inspection and seeing whether or not you want to proceed with purchasing that property. Not everybody, and this baffles me, not everybody gets building and pest inspections done. And you're about to drop hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on a property, and you're not going to pay $600-700 for a report that's going to show you what the problems in that property may well be. If nothing else, it's a to-do list for you. So if you're prepared to take on a renovation, you've got an idea of where you need to start, what needs to be done. But it's funny. I find it funny. People balk at getting something like a building and pest inspection done, where I always suggest to our clients to get them done. It's up to them to decide whether they want to have it done or not. The funny thing is, the ones that do get them done, which is most of my clients, opt to get a building inspection done. The ones that do, and then something crops up, which they say, nah, not going to touch that, they're the ones that see the value in it, because they've just, if you like, dodged the bullet of buying a dud. And the other funny thing is that so many times I see, we've done our due diligence on a property, we've done the building inspection, and there's something that's come up in there that we haven't liked, that my clients have not been prepared to take on, and they've said no. And those houses sell for exactly even more, sometimes more, than what they otherwise would have sold for if that property didn't have that problem. And that's what happened with this property recently, where my clients, as I said, they fell in love with the property, but they weren't prepared to take on the major renovation of some of the wet areas in the property, because the challenge, anybody that's renovated will tell you, the challenge is where you find one thing, there's often 5 other things you've also got to fix. And the other thing, nothing square, nothing straight. It's why builders love to build new houses versus renovating an existing property, because over time things just shift. They're no longer square. And then you're trying to match things, put new things onto old things and get things to line up. And it's a challenge. It can be quite a challenge. And so things often cost more for that very reason, because you pull one thing off and then there's the next thing. So you fix the next thing and then there's the next thing. And it becomes a case of where do you stop? Where do you stop? So that's why a building and pest inspection is very, very important. So with the guide prices that we see, so look, I do refer to them as works of fiction because they are something that are required to be done, but they can be manipulated to suit the narrative of what the agent is looking to say in relation to a property. Again, not all agents. We work with amazing agents as well. But how do you know? If you've not bought a property for a long time, or if you've never bought a property before, how do you know the great agents from the agents that are not looking after your best interests? And I've been doing this long enough to pretty much pick up on it straight away as to who's telling the truth, who is being a little fluid with the truth, and who is just playing the game. So know the rules of the game, because real estate, where you get it wrong, it can be extraordinarily expensive. Certainly when you buy the wrong property, you're still having to pay all those costs to get in and then to get out again and then buy something else. You're going to repeat paying those costs again, which is why it's one of the reasons why people may not necessarily sell their houses as often as they otherwise would, because of these taxes. So certainly here in Melbourne at the moment, we have there's a shortage of property. And by that, we mean it's multifaceted as to why. We've got migration coming in, obviously, but also building has slowed down. Many builders have gone bust based on how things have gone over the last few years. But also, because it is so expensive with the number of taxes to buy a property, houses are not getting released. And what I mean by that is older people that may otherwise be wanting to downsize are choosing not to do so. They're choosing to stay in their properties because the changeover cost can be cost prohibitive. So certainly we do have situations where people are asset rich and cash poor. And that means that they might be sitting on this multi-million-dollar asset, but that's not to say they've got great cash flow. And as people get older, they may not have access to that. So where you're looking to downsize, which means selling your property, not only do you have to find a property that you like, you've got to be able to accommodate all of those costs. And certainly the biggest cost in most states of Australia when you're buying real estate is stamp duty. And then add to things they're talking about changing stamp duty and changing land tax and all kinds of property taxes. And honestly, there's so many taxes on real estate when it comes to buying and selling, for that matter, because you get charged to both sides get charged to discharge a mortgage, one for the seller and the buyer. Everybody's getting charged left, right, and centre. So one of the reasons that the housing shortage is being exacerbated, in my opinion, is that the changeover cost to buy a new property is exorbitant or cost prohibitive for some people who don't have the cash flow to do it. So it creates this self-fulfilling prophecy of a shortage, because people aren't selling because of the costs. And so because people aren't selling, there's nothing for them to buy. That's another reason they say is there's nothing that they like to buy. And so they stay put. And because they're staying put, the stock's not getting released and there's nothing that they like to buy. So it is this catch-22 that's going on. So it is certainly something that the government really needs to take a good, hard look at in relation to what can be done to support people looking to buy properties. And we're not just talking about people that are looking to rent either. And I've talked before about the massive costs now for property investors when they're looking to buy a property, or even just upkeep of a property, more to the point. So you've got land tax, which recently in Victoria was put up. And when you overall look at what your strategy is when it comes to investing in real estate, end of the day, it's an asset class. It's an asset in which you are often suggested or encouraged or advised by your might be your financial planner, your accountant, or someone that they're suggesting that you invest your money somewhere. And real estate, there's a saying, safe as houses. Real estate is where it has been suggested for many, many years to invest. However, the way things have gone over the last few years is with the way governments are now taxing investors, it's becoming cost prohibitive to hold properties. So even when something is negatively geared, meaning that the expenses outweigh the income, and you can get a tax deduction on that difference, on that shortfall, but it does mean you're continually having to dip into your pocket and contribute to that property. So with the cost of living, insurances have gone up, owners' corps have gone up. There's so many costs that have increased over the last few months/years, it's become untenable for many investors to still hold the properties. And so where they can get an equivalent return for their money with much less angst in the bank, that's what they're doing. They're selling up. So I describe real estate as a very finely tuned microorganism, because you make one change and it can have other changes, other effects that you may not necessarily have expected. So it is a finely tuned ecosystem, and you've got to be very careful moving any parts in it, because you just don't know what the effects of that might be. So if you are out and about and you're looking to buy a property, and that's you're showing up at auctions and you're getting frustrated with properties flying over your budget, and or you keep missing out an auction, or you're not sure about who to trust when you're dealing with real estate agents, or if it's your first time buying a property and you're really just unsure of the process, we are here to support you. We are here to hold your hand. That's what we do. We are your eyes and ears on the ground. And just remember, when you're talking to a real estate agent, their client is the seller. You're not the client. No matter how nice they may be to you, you are not the client. You are our client. We are your buyer's advocate. We're your buyer's agent. We support you. We are your independent voice working with you. So do reach out, chamberlainadvocates.com.au. I'd love to have a conversation. I would love to be able to support you alongside my fabulous team to get you into your dream home. Just imagine that you're no longer having to go out and look for properties, get so stressed. And what happens when you miss out again? You've got to continue the hunt, and you've invested your time and your money and you've missed out yet again. I would absolutely love to support you. Reach out on your favourite social channel and send us a message, or chamberlainadvocates.com.au, or even just give us a call. So I do thank you once again for tuning in to my Property Mama Adventures in Real Estate. Hope you've enjoyed our chat today, and we will chat again next week.